It seems that over the years Nintendo has managed to create countless characters for their gaming library. Yet somehow the only ones that a lot of people seem to know or talk about are always the same three. I wonder why so many people only seem to recognize Nintendo for three franchises. Mario I can understand since he's been Nintendo's main mascot since the beginning. But Link and Samus seem to be more for a different type of Nintendo gamer. Surely there's a bit of trolling involved, but trolling alone can't explain why so many people think this way. I don't hear many people talk about any of Nintendo's other franchises. Hell, even I'm guilty of that. Since the release of the NES in North America till now, so many franchises have been made and ignored while Mario, Zelda, and Metroid seem to always be the most talked about. And I think I know why. All Nintendo has is Mario, Zelda, and Metroid. Words that many of us have heard, but are they really true or just people's way of trying to get under the skin of a hardcore Nintendo fan? Then again, could it be that those words are said because the person saying them really doesn't know all that much about Nintendo? What if I were to say that I believe that this may actually be Nintendo's fault? Of course they didn't do it intentionally, but I believe that Nintendo's success could actually end up being their own downfall. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you guys know me by now. I always explain what I mean. Now let's go back to my first question. When it comes to these three titles, do those very popular words all Nintendo has are these three games true, or are they simply a false accusation based on a lack of information about Nintendo's gaming library? If your answer is number 2, then the next question is, whose fault is that? I must warn you now, feelings and emotions, once again, won't help us here. With that said, what exactly do we know about Mario, Zelda, and Metroid? We know that all three of these titles, especially Mario, are Nintendo's most popular franchises. Hell, people who aren't even gamers know who Mario is, or at least know of him. But is this a good or bad thing? The easy answer to this is, it's a damn good thing, because the more popular something is, the easier it is to make money off of said something, which is why Nintendo can still make money off of Mario. So how can more money be a bad thing? Well, in Nintendo's case, it's not. Yet. I'll explain. To me, Mario becoming as iconic as he did was more of an accident than it was a planned out business strategy by Nintendo. And I think that may end up being a problem because I highly doubt Nintendo knew just how popular a character with the story of overweight plumber rescues princess was going to be. Mario, Link, and Samus are known more for their gameplay than they are for their backstory, while nowadays companies are trying to plan out these long movie-style stories, yet their characters can't seem to be as iconic. The only character I can think of that somewhat fits the iconic list is Solid Snake. And look at all the work Konami had to do to put him where he is now. Snake is more known for the stories Konami told that involved him because when Konami tells a story, they tell a fucking story. But how many companies are willing to go through that much work to make their main characters stand out? I'm sure most developers would love for the main character in their games to be iconic, but how would they go about that? This is why Nintendo can go as far as to make sports and racing games using their main characters. All they have to do is put Mario's name in the title. So Mario's not only Nintendo's most popular gaming character, but he may very well be carrying Nintendo. And if Mario were to be removed from this whole equation, then who could Nintendo use to take over? Link wouldn't work simply because of his playstyle. While we all know that the Wii is meant for everyone, before the Wii's release, it didn't seem so much like Nintendo was for everyone as it seemed like it was Mario that was for everyone. The Legend of Zelda, however, was not. If anything, Zelda was more for the hardcore gamer of the 80s, i.e. the gamer that was willing to put a lot more time and effort into a game that wasn't going to easily be beaten overnight. A game like this was going to take lots of work, lots of time, gaming magazines, and Nintendo hotlines to call and run up your parents' phone bills. This is why our parents and hell, even grandparents would play a game like Mario. But how many of them would dare touch something like Legend of Zelda, Ninja Gaiden, or hell, Castlevania? Like I said, it didn't seem so much that Nintendo was for everyone. It was Mario that was for everyone. And this made it possible for Mario to become as iconic as he is now. It was because his style of gameplay was literally for everyone. But if Super Mario Bros. Was as difficult to play as Legend of Zelda was, then I believe Mario's popularity may not have been what it is today, and another Nintendo character may have taken the title as the gaming icon. And with that, we can see that luck may have actually played a small portion in the success of Mario. I only say luck because of the perfect timing of Mario's introduction into the gaming world. Imagine if Mario were introduced in this generation flooded with those closed-minded gamers. He would have been laughed off stage no matter what console he was introduced to. And this is where I believe the problem may have started. It's not so much that Nintendo has a character that's become an icon in the gaming world, it's that this character's popularity wasn't planned out but instead just kinda happened. If it was planned out, then Nintendo may not have tried so hard to make other franchises stand out only to get overshadowed by their own creation. The overshadowing of Nintendo's other franchises seem to be due more to the popularity of Mario, Zelda, and Metroid, and less to do with Sony and Microsoft's franchises. And with this, I'm starting to see that the characters like Donkey Kong, Olimar, Fox, or Kirby aren't being overshadowed by anyone from Halo, Gears of War, Uncharted, Killzone, or hell, even Call of Duty. They're actually being overshadowed by Mario, Link, and Samus. In other words, it looks like Nintendo's own franchises are being overshadowed by, well, Nintendo's own franchises. But coming to this conclusion is easy. What's difficult for me is trying to think of a way for Nintendo to fix this problem. If I were in Nintendo's shoes, sadly, I'd be doing the exact same thing they're doing, profiting more off of my more well-known games. Hell, it almost seems like a no-brainer. It may be too risky for Nintendo to concentrate more on games based on characters no one ever talks about, especially when some of those people are their own fanbase or used to be their fanbase. One question is, what made it so easy for Nintendo's other franchises to stand out more back then than they do now? Back then there was no such thing as kiddie. Wait, let me rephrase that. Back then, games based on Nintendo's main characters weren't considered kiddie. Much better. Kiddie didn't really seem to pop up until we were introduced to the mature rating. Once a game came along and said, look at me, I'm for the big boys, then certain Nintendo games instantly got labeled as kiddie and in some cases seemed to just slowly vanish. But there was Mario and Zelda, still holding strong. Is it possible that the kiddie theme created by gamers who thought playing more adult-like games made them more of an adult played a part in why a lot of Nintendo's franchises are ignored? I guess that would make a little sense. But then what keeps Zelda going? We know what keeps Mario going, but how has The Legend of Zelda managed to hold strong all this time? While Mario and Zelda are both popular franchises, they're both popular for different reasons. Zelda has always been more about puzzle solving and exploration. It wasn't really meant to be cinematic like a lot of games are today, and that may be what's keeping it going. If The Legend of Zelda was based more on storytelling than it was its gameplay, then it may have died out a long time ago. This is why in a lot of cases when movies start getting too many sequels, the stories start to become ridiculous. And with as many Legend of Zelda games as there are, too heavily of a story would have now gotten to the point that it wouldn't be taken serious anymore. This is why I think Nintendo not giving Link a personality is a good thing. What this does is make Link's personality based more on the person who's playing. If you're more of an aggressive type of player that likes to go around destroying everything, then Link is an aggressive character that likes to destroy everything. If you're more calm and like to explore, then Link's personality is calm and he likes to explore. With other games, your character's personality is already made for you, so you don't choose how your character acts, the game does. And because of this, I feel that the day Nintendo makes Link talk and gives him a personality and creates a cinematic story for the game is the day Nintendo could very well ruin The Legend of Zelda. I believe Mario works somewhat the same way. You can't really make a serious story out of the Mario franchise because of the game's characters themselves. I guarantee the people that want a full cinematic story out of Mario would end up complaining about the story that Nintendo gives it. Why? Because there's no way to make a story out of a plumber who saves a princess from an evil turtle dragon with kids and actually get your audience to take it seriously. That would be laughed at. The safest route to take is to leave story out of a game that isn't really meant to be taken serious in the first place. We already know why Mario does what he does. We don't need 2 hours worth of dialogue and CGI to explain it. Nintendo seems to take their gameplay more serious than their stories, and I think that's been one of the main things keeping Mario going. His gameplay is meant for everyone, his stories are not. So leaving stories out of it seemed to be the safest thing to do. Now I haven't said much about Metroid. I was never that big of a Metroid fan. However, between Mario, Zelda, and Metroid, I don't believe Metroid is carrying Nintendo the same way Mario and Zelda are. In fact, I honestly don't know how Metroid became the third most popular Nintendo title this generation, unless it had something to do with the Metroid Prime games and them representing that genre we call first-person shooter. I know, it's not technically a first-person shooter, calm down. But going back to my other question, who holds the crown if Mario, Zelda, and Metroid were to die out, especially Mario and Zelda? Does Nintendo go down with them, or does another franchise take over that we would never expect to? I feel that Nintendo needs to find a way to make their other characters stand out more while at the same time not ruining the characters that already do. But how in the hell do you go about doing that? Nintendo doesn't seem to follow new gaming trends, and with that I have to give them props. It takes huge balls for a company to say, we don't give a damn about what other people consider to be the norm, we're going to continue to do what people liked about us from the very beginning. Not very many gaming companies, if any at all, would do that. They would actually follow what they believe is considered the norm. Mario is able to stand so strong because there really is no spot to put him in, meaning he can go wherever Nintendo wants him to go and still be taken serious. This is why he's been able to play almost every role in the many gaming genres we've had. He's been a side-scroller, a racer, a role player, a fighter, a basketball player, a tennis player, and many more. Hell, no matter what genre Mario represented, if that genre died out, Mario would never die with it. But if the shooter genre were to ever die out, would Master Chief still be able to hold strong? I believe one of the main things that can hurt a gaming character is when you give them too strong of a role to the point that people can only see them playing that role. This is why I get the feeling you guys would laugh your ass off at the thought of Master Chief playing basketball or Kratos playing tennis. Their roles were already set for them, so we can only see them doing what their stories allow them to do, while Mario can do whatever he wants. And this is a double-edged sword. If you put Mario into a boxing game, then he would overshadow Little Mac. If you put him in a game that takes place in a jungle that has you collecting bananas, he would overshadow Donkey Kong. Why? Because people who may not be that familiar with Donkey Kong would actually accept Mario playing that role. But how many people would accept Sackboy playing Kratos' role other than with one of the many outfits you can get for him? The only time it seemed like Mario was taken serious in the wrong way was when Nintendo did what a lot of people this generation said they needed to do to Mario. They made his gameplay different in an actual Mario game with Super Mario Sunshine. And that seemed to be the only time Mario was looked down upon by quite a bit of his own fanbase. But once Galaxy was released, everything went back to normal. Because of this, the conclusion I came to is that Nintendo is going to have to find a way to lower the popularity of these three in order to raise the popularity of these others. But how in the hell do you do that? As I said earlier, Nintendo's creation of Mario didn't seem like a planned out move. It wasn't like they said, we're going to create a character that'll become so iconic that he'll be known around the world. It seemed more like a, we need an animated sprite to go here, that ended up working better than even they may have expected. I feel that it's not so much that Nintendo needs new IPs, it's that their other IPs just need more recognition. A lot of people that believe that all Nintendo has is Mario, Zelda, and Metroid only know of those three games. And a lot of people that are fans of Nintendo seem to only talk about these three games. Hell, even I've been guilty of that. I also believe that Nintendo has the most difficult job of the three console companies this generation. Nintendo develops both their own hardware and software, while Sony and Microsoft seem to only have to worry about hardware and let the other companies have at it. Yes, they all have exclusive content, but in Sony and Microsoft's cases, it's being developed by other companies that are working for them. Right now, Nintendo doesn't really have to worry about that because if the third-party developers don't create anything that draw people to their console, then Nintendo can develop something that does because Nintendo can develop their own games based on their own characters without worrying about another company screwing it up. Shut up, that never happened. It also seems that the more our gaming generation changes, the harder it is for Nintendo's not-so-popular characters to stand out. And I believe that if they're not careful, Nintendo's #1 failure, ironically, could end up being because of their #1 success.